The primary purpose of a furnace is to get you from this stuff to this kind of stuff. Or this, or even to that. For this we have the arc furnace, the furnace, and finally the advanced furnace, which is really the best of them. This one is so sophisticated it even needs to be powered. But don't worry, you can blow yourself up old school, no problem.
Critical.
Because you can run this one just like the classic one. It has an inlet chute, so you could put the ice and volatiles in there, no problem. What makes it so advanced are two things. One is it has some built-in pumps, which are really useful if you want to get in some fuel very quickly. And caution, the default setting is not 0, so when you fire this thing up and everything is already piped, then that's very dangerous. And also has a pump to get it empty very quickly, as opposed to the classic one, which you have to patiently wait out. And also, of course, it can make the advanced alloys, while the simple furnace can only make the simple ones, for example steel. The arc furnace, while only suitable for the simple ingots, is also useful in the late game, because you don't have to worry about pressure or fuel or any of those things. Just switch it on and it will burn through your electricity. So the arc furnace is easiest to use, but it's not always the best choice, even if you abhor the dealing with pressure and all of that. Because it's only fast for certain things. This, for example, is iron. But now, gold sentence. So if you turn this thing on, you see it takes a long time to burn through gold. Copper also takes long. The furnace, however, makes quick work out of all of these, equally. It doesn't care. So, arc furnace fast for iron, slow for copper and gold. You want to keep that in mind because gold needs 600 Kelvin, and so does copper, in the furnace, whereas the arc furnace doesn't have any, temperature that you need to worry about. The iron ingots, though, need 800 Kelvin. So iron ingots in the arc furnace and the other stuff in the furnace. Or everything in the furnace, whatever floats your boat. Running a furnace indoors is usually a bad idea, but here on Europa it can actually help heat up your room, because they excrete quite a lot of heat. Even the arc furnace. Equally interesting, it also excretes gas. Oh, gas? Where's that coming from? Well, let's take a look at this. We have a little vacuum box here, and now we're smelting a full stack of iron. 30 degrees, 40 degrees, it's getting hot in here. Pressure increasing and increasing. Once the full stack has been smelted, we have 88 degrees in here and 46 kilopascals, lots of CO2 and pollutant. This happens because ores that you mine yourself in the world have gases. Iron, for example, has some CO2 and lots of pollutant. Uranium has lots of pollutant, and gold even has some oxygen. That's something you want to keep in mind on Vulcan. But anyway, that's not much heat coming from the arc furnace, right? Room was at minus 140 degrees. Now we see some pollutant freezing and falling to the ground. Not much heat. Barely 1 degree. So let's compare that to the furnace. Put some oxide in. It's a lot already. I have to keep pushing here because there's nothing in the furnace yet. It's cold, so it cannot melt what's coming into the chute. It cannot accept it. Same thing when I now put in double the amount of volatiles so we get the proper fuel mixture. It's a bit much what I'm putting in there, but it's still okay. One click. This now started the melting process, the burning process, and so it can take in the rest. But now, look at the room. This is doing some damage. 20 seconds after the cut. 6 degrees in this large room, man. Three minutes later, minus 117. 3 more minutes, minus 100 degrees. From minus 140, just by letting this thing run for a while. That's how much heat this thing leaks. And this one also, I believe. Of course, once you have your nice Europa base warm enough and are no longer freezing, you should install some measures so that it gets cooler. And as long as you're not growing any potatoes here, just opening a door is a nice measure. And you can even do that automatically. The labeler was used to name this gas sensor James Bond. The door also needed a name, so that we're independent of the screws, and can just use a simple program like this to protect us from temperatures over, for example, 23 degrees and pressure over 100 kilopascals. But okay, back to furnacing. The arc furnace excretes its gases right into the outer room, you've seen that. This dude doesn't, neither does the advanced furnace. For this they have these pipes, output, and there are some others also. The furnace will just stay under pressure. I mean, the pressure will of course decrease as it cools down, but the gases will not go away, unless we add a pipe. And a valve. And a bunch more pipes and an opening of sorts, pipe cowl or passive vent. Which currently has planetary atmosphere, so these should actually be insulated pipes so they don't bleed into the room. Same basically for this pipe also. And now we can release that into the planet atmosphere. We can also use a filtration unit here to get the CO2 into a tank in here or into the room if you want to do something with plants. As long as it's not too hot, you know, you have to give it some time to cool down. There are also other means to cool it down. Anyway, this is what we need to get the gases out of here. Same here for the advanced furnace, except you don't need a valve, because it has this built-in pump, and as long as you don't turn that up, nothing will escape. Again, even though the advanced furnace is so advanced, you don't really need electricity. The sparky thing here also works without it. This is just for the pumps. Now I added some perfect fuel mixture. Let's see what happens if we spark this. This is these are the waste gases that are produced. CO2 and pollutant. And the pipe here is still cold. Unless... Oh, the electricity refuses functionality as long as the output and input pipes don't have a connection. Let me just do that. Just faking it. Yeah, and that happens if you pump out with pressure half-burned fuel. So we have a flamethrower. Not bad. Pressure is rapidly decreasing because the pump is on. Here we have the same amount of fuel and it's still slowly leaking its content through the pipe passively, while the pump does it actively. So basically you want to aim for the advanced furnace as soon as possible. It's not harder to use than the normal furnace. It is in fact simpler. Before we go and do some actual furnacing, there's something I always wanted to know. Deep miners, when they output dirty ore, if you put that in a centrifuge, here, this is in a vacuumed room, what happens? Nothing. There's no gas in this ore, it doesn't come out. This is what it's currently producing from the dirty ore. But no gas. Now what happens if you do that with iron ore? That would be degassed from here. I mean, if you toss this in here, we get some pollutant and so forth. What happens if we put that into the centrifuge? So, the furnace is now idle, and nothing transpired. What happens now? Ah, okay, so the furnace, centrifuge, of course, the centrifuge is degassing the ore also. Now we know. Tell your children about it, and make them teach their children too. Here's a question, what about this stuff? Uranium, we know it has a lot of pollutant, but you can't smelt it to some kind of ingot. What if you toss that into the arc furnace? What happens?
Toxin critical. Temperature critical. Temperature high. Toxin critical.
Well, it blows through that entire stack in an instant, which was quite unexpected to me, truly. And now you see how much pollutant is here. My god. Let's clean that up, huh? Yeah, getting there. A bit quicker now. Everything's clean again. So, what do we have here? 80% pollution, 20% CO2. Now that this thing is done. But the real question is, now that we have degassed basically the uranium ore, what happens if we try this again? This stunt. Nothing. It comes out, it is degassed, and you cannot distinguish a gassed or degassed stack. It's impossible. I wonder what happens if I stack one gassed with the rest degassed. Let's do that. Here, that's the new one. That one still has its gas, and this is the stack from... Oh, maybe I should have done this before. From before, so... Dup. What happens if we toss this in here? Oh. I get the feeling that... So I had in my hand the degassed large stack and then clicked on the thing on the ground that was still with gas. Let's kind of flip that. This is from the thing that just came out of the arc furnace, definitely degassed, and this is fresh, really bad shit. So let's pick this thing and click with the empty stack on the dirty one. What happens if we smelt that?
Temperature high. Toxin critical. Temperature critical.
Okay, so I don't know why we apparently didn't get any pollutant seconds ago with that experiment, but this time we do. Bit inconclusive. Well, moving on. Let me just show you how easy it is to smelt some stuff with the advanced furnace once we're using fuel directly from the tank. Pure fuel mixture, 66%, I mean 2/3 volatiles, 1/3 oxygen. Simple. Well, let's first do the usual. That is the input pump. That is the power switch. And that is the pressure that's currently in the furnace of fuel gas that is not burning. Let's compare that with the situation when the fuel gas is burning.
Cognition critical.
Alright, so when you toy with this thing, it's good to be in control of what you're doing. Let's turn that to 0, turn it on. I will press R now. I don't know, for you it's probably C, whatever is written in the tooltip. For a small increase, then I turn this off again and bop, ignite. Never mind the stupid door, it also needed a name. So now if I want to turn this up a little, this was 10, you know? We're getting this kick. That is so much. But now that it's burning, at least you see what's happening. See, and now it will be rolling and rolling. Oh, that was too much. Oh my god, we will die. No, we won't. Just pump it out. That's why you want a chimney, you know? Still increasing, but I think it will run itself dry, not a problem. So in this way you can also deal with this furnace when you stuff in, or what you can also do here, just stuff in some volatiles and oxide. Always make sure you have 1 oxide and 2 volatiles to get the proper mixture. You can also do more volatiles or more oxide, only then it will be an uneven mixture and part of it will not burn. It's your choice, it's not a problem. Anyway, silence! See how much power this thing had? You definitely want the advanced furnace. To make it though, you need the advanced manufactories. So you need Invar and Constantan, or was it only Constantan? Sorry, I don't remember. There. So how do you furnace? Well, let's look at the ingots. We can see here these ones are for the advanced alloys. For that you need the advanced furnace. This is the alloys. For that you need the normal furnace. You can also make these in the advanced furnace. And you can also make the basic one in the advanced furnace. But you cannot make the advanced or the alloys in the arc furnace. So very simple. Arc furnace this, normal furnace this, and the alloys, advanced furnace, all of them. For these you don't need a mixture. Just stuff in some copper and copper will come out. 2 parameters are to be considered. 3 actually. Okay, 2 parameters. You can see here the pressure in megapascals, 6 something megapascals, and temperature in Kelvin. This might not really be something you're used to, but you don't really have to worry about that. If you look here what you need to make an ingot steel, for example, and you scroll, and you can see here you need 900K and 1 megapascal. We have more than 900K and more than 1 megapascal. Is that a problem? No, the temperature can go to 100 kilokelvin. That's really high. You never reach this here. So this basically means start from here and doesn't matter. And pressure the same. Start from here and doesn't matter. And do we have start from here doesn't matter? Yes. So this means it's good for steel, yes? Well then let's put in 2/3 iron and 1/3 coal. It doesn't have to be this amount, just the relationship has to be correct. You can see here the button is green, meaning the mixture is alright, but it's not steel yet. Yeah, well, the thing doesn't care. It tells you what comes out will be an iron ingot, because only iron is in there, and then that's valid. Okay. And finally the coal. But it's not green. And it doesn't say steel here. What did we do wrong? I don't know. Well, look at the thing here. We see the pressure is above 1 megapascal. Good. We see the pressure, the temperature is no longer very high. Bad. Why? Because currently there's tons of gas in there. Because the ore was just degassed. So there's lots more gas in there that needs to be heated by the same amount of heat that was in there already. And so obviously there's relatively less. There, I added some more. You don't need the tablet at all, really. You can just look here, see 15 megapascals, 16, that's still fine. Even if the needle is up here, you're still fine, but you really need to consider not putting more in and also maybe venting it. Temperature is over 900K, and so we will now get steel. Yep. And this thing is needed to make the station battery. So you definitely want to strive to make the furnace and make it hot by tossing in some oxide and volatiles. Let's say maybe 4 or 8 volatiles and 2 or 4 oxide. Of course, push the button so that it actually starts burning. And you don't need these pipes at all. You can just leave it in there. Then it will rot, and well, at least you will have your station battery steel. And you don't need this much. There, now the furnace is cold again. I put only a little bit of fuel in there. So what happens if we put in the iron now? Oh, what comes out is iron indeed. But in here you can see tons of CO2 and pollutant, and that came from the iron. So, are they now degassed? Yes. So let's start over with the furnace and use the same amount of fuel as before to make steel and see how that feels. So remember, last time we did this, we had enough pressure and enough heat in here, but once I had tossed in the iron and the coal, that was no longer the case. I had to add more fuel. What happens now though? Lever is closed, good. We want that stuff to stay in there. Temperature is decreasing. Not necessarily because we are tossing in the iron. Or is that so? It is done smelting, let's see, it's not lowering any further. So yes, that was because I put the iron in. That is happening. But now we would get steel, because it was degassed before I did all these things. There's even still some fuel left that is burning up. You see the O2 and volatiles? So what we see there, CO2 and pollutant, is solely from the burning process, not from the ore. So if you need to achieve very high temperatures, then maybe it's advisable to first degas your stuff, though honestly this is the very first time that I do this. I always cope otherwise. But sometimes I do have to start with an empty furnace, else I can't achieve my high temperatures. Let's say you want to be part of the normal, average, advanced stationeering world where we do programming, which is really, really advisable. It's not hard. The first steps into it are really easy. I have some tutorials up. Maybe you want to look at that, and other people too, of course. Anyway, if you need the Electrum and solder for it, let's do that. We have a naked, empty furnace here. I will now take some volatiles and oxide. Let's first see what happens if I take the oxide. And it's gone. What's happening is it melted in my hand and now it's streaming into the room. We don't want that with the volatiles. That's the trick though. Let's occupy both hands, stand at an angle, close to it, but at an angle, and then click on the oxide. Aha. So that was just tossed in there because it fell basically into the world. Oops. That was not intended. Yeah. Actually, I lost count, honestly. But some amount is in there. Okay, that amount is in there now. That some amount. So let's toss in the gold and silver, which is for the Electrum. We can look that up in the Stationpedia. You can see here we need at least 600k, maximum is not defined basically, and we need 800 to 2.4 megapascals. You can see that we need some minimum temperature. We will easily achieve that, maximum doesn't matter. Pressure 800 kilopascal, but we have a maximum pressure that is not to be exceeded, and we have exceeded this. So what do? We relieve the pressure, which is so much easier. You have seen that here by just turning this knob here and look here, and then we see the right value. But you can also do that with a standard furnace. You just have to wait a bit, and I will do the waiting for you. Almost. And then we can see the green light, because we're still above 600k. And so now we get Electrum. More interestingly... Oh, why do I have that in my hand? Now we also want to make solder, which is ideally made right after. I mean, you need the two of them together to make IC10, the chip. So it's a good approach to make them together also. First the Electrum, because it needs more heat. And now that I've put this stuff in, you can see that the furnace cools down ridiculously. And that's good, because the maximum temperature that is allowed to make solder is 550k. We're still a bit above that. 1 megapascal to 100 megapascal, so pressure needs to be high, but no maximum is defined. Temperature 350 to 550k. That's all. And if you want this a bit colder, then just put in some oxide. And there's our solder. That was easy, huh? I mean, okay, of course you're just watching me, but if you do this yourself, you need some practice. You just need some practice. But you need to understand we have two factors here to consider: the pressure and the temperature, and, oh, of course, the mixture. Let's talk about the mixture. If you want to upgrade your manufactories, you have to start with the electronics printer. The electronics printer can print the electronics printer mod. See, tire 1 can print this. And then you hold that in your hand, and in the other hand the screwdriver, and then you screw that on. Then you have your electronics printer tire 2, with which you can then print the mods for the other manufactories also. But to make this thing here, or the pipe bender mod, or the tool printer mod, etc., you need Constantan. And then once you have those, you definitely want to make your advanced tool belt, so you have more slots and so forth, and the heavy mining drill, which is the fastest handheld drill that exists in the game. And for that, you need Invar. So, if you want to really kick it in the boards, if you want to step on the gas, you need the advanced manufactories and the advanced mining drill, the heavy mining drill. Not Mark II, it's not at that fast, it's more of heat resistant, but it's also a bit faster, I think. The heavy mining drill, you need Constantan and Invar. So, Invar, the ingot Invar, needs iron and nickel, which you can see here. Iron, nickel. And Constantan needs copper and nickel. Nickel is relatively rare, but yeah, it's otherwise you can find it, of course. To make Constantan, you just need 1K or more temperature. See, the maximum is basically not defined, or 20 megapascal to also not defined. So if you're starting out your smelting process, you don't want to make the Constantan ingot first, but instead the Invar ingot, because this one is more tricky to make. So we first aim very carefully to reach that point, and then afterwards nothing matters. It's easier than the other way around. So let's bring this thing up to temperature, shall we? I will do it unwisely. We still have some stuff in here, and we should wait until it's empty, so I will probably fail. But let's see what that would look like, so we have the experience. Oops, maybe I should wait a little.
Toxin critical.
Yeah, whatever. I'm just doing it by gut feeling. So 15 megapascals. Yeah, let's put the stuff in, which was what? Don't confuse the two. Iron and nickel. So nickel. More nickel, iron, and you can see here that my mixture is not right. I just removed one from my iron stack. This will not work. No matter if I get the pressure and everything correct, this will not work. And what comes out is just this dirt here. So did I just fail? No, this stuff, you can just put that back in there. It will be the same stuff that was in there before. And of course, finally the missing iron. And now we have the correct mixture. It looks a bit weird because of some rounding in there, but it doesn't matter. This will be good enough. But we don't have the right situation here. What do we need? 1.2 to 1.5, 18 to 20 megapascals. Actually, we have that. Iron, nickel. Iron, nickel, half and half. 18 to 20, 1.2, 1.5. 18 to 20, 1.2, it's not hot enough. Problem is, if you make it hotter now, the pressure will also rise. Does this work? Pressure too high, and temperature not high enough. 1.2 to 1.5. Now if only the pressure would decrease, but as it does, the heat also decreases. There are ways to insulate the furnace. You can put it in a box with some hot atmosphere. I've never done this before, so sorry I cannot tell you the details of that. But you can do it like this also. I will just wait until the pressure has dropped. Apparently we will stay just above 1.2, so we're rather lucky that this worked out. You should definitely try to empty the furnace before you do such a thing. Now there's Invar, so let's put the stuff in for Constantan. Okay, we need more pressure, we need more temperature, but as you remember, there's no top level, so the hard part is over. We just need to fill it a bit more, problem solved. Might be enough already. And here we go. Invar Constantan. And now you can make your heavy mining drill and the advanced manufactories. See, I mean, it looked easy, didn't it? It is not that hard. You need the experience. You need the experience. So toy with this thing. But let's say you completely fail your mixture. So put in the iron, some more iron, the rest of the iron, and the coal. This would be steel now. Anyway, and then some copper, which of course completely fucks up your mixture, and there is no salvaging this, is there? Because if you spit this out, you would just get a so-called reagent mix, like before. And tossing this in again, what does it give you? What we had before, the same fucked up mixture. However, we have a centrifuge. This thing is empty, and we can now toss this in there. Oh. This will take a while. A really long while, which is why you don't want to make that kind of mistake. At least we can make the weight a bit more bearable. Oh. So we don't have to play the overseer here. Yeah, like I said, this will take a long time. Anyway, you can tell what's happening here. We will have in there, once we flip this lever and it spits stuff out, careful, it will only spit out integers, so currently 4 iron, the .8 iron would get lost, so wait until you're done here. It would just separate that again. We would get the iron, the copper, the hydrocarbon. It might actually be that you will get a little less material, slightly less, due to some rounding errors, but anyway, you will get that stuff separate, and then you can start over. However, maybe you already know that you can also just toss ingots in here. It will have the same effect, other than they are already degassed. But you know that degassing is rather not a problem. So if I put in some copper ingot, then it will be the same as if I put in some degassed copper ore. We can then make a mixture. See, I would now get out 1 ingot copper, which was made from, 1 ingot copper. But you get the picture. But what if I toss in steel? I mean, steel is some kind of alloy, right? And this is not proper mixture. Then we get some reagent mix. And what happens if we toss that into the empty thingy here? Copper and steel. Okay, give it to me. Supposedly we now get copper and steel. Okay, now we have copper ore, but what the shit is this? That's our steel. Yep. And if you want the actual steel, I mean, let's say we had tossed more in there. Then let's say maybe an Invar ingot also, and we stuff all the brown stuff that came out here, the mixer that completely doesn't work, back in here, and the centrifuges, and then the same thing happens that just happened this moment. We get some copper, we get some brown ball, and we get another brown ball. Do not do the following, do not do it. Do not pick this thing up and then click on the other thing also, because then you lump them together and you cannot ever separate them again. You would have to like centrifuge them again. This though can just be put in here again, and now you get steel. I think you don't even need the heat that we currently have. I think 300 Celsius is already enough, you know, the temperature that you need for degassing. See? Okay, that's it. I gotta go to bed. There's probably more to be said here, but I just don't have the time. See ya.